So in the previous class, we have seen how to implement a stack using the list data structure is following the principle last in first out. Okay. So what is this principle? That the insert operation and the delete operation should be done only at the end. Both the operations, the insert operation as well as the delete operation. Both the operations should be done only at one end, and that end is called as a top. And how you are implementing. Okay, so a stack using the list data structure is by taking two methods. The first method is the append method. Append method is used to insert the data at the end of the stack, and pop method without arguments into it is used to delete a element from the stack. This is what we have seen in the previous class. In today's class, we'll see how to convert. Okay, so how to implement a queue using list data structure. So queue and stack are considered to be two linear data structures with different principles of insertion and deletion. Where stack follows the last in first out principle, the queue follows first in first out principle. What does it mean by first in first out? Say you have gone to a milk booth. So there is a queue there, right? And say you have gone to a cinema theater. In front of the ticket counter, the people will be standing like a queue. Whoever is in the front of the queue will be getting the services first. Okay, so the first one into the queue will get the services first. That is what is the strategy of the queue. Okay, so what is the principle of the queue? So the principle of the queue is first in, first out, FIFO. You call this as FIFO. There are two operations that you can perform on the queue. The first one is the insert operation and the second one is the delete operation. Okay, say for example, this is the list. Okay, so what is there in the list? Say I'm having 1, 2 and 3 in the list. Okay, and I want to make it look like a queue data structure. So the the element that is inserted first is nothing but 1. Okay, so which is considered to be the element at the front. Okay, so element at the front, and the last element is considered to be in the rare position. Okay, so this is what is called as the rare positions. Okay, so the element in the front will be deleted first. Okay, so if you want to delete an element from the queue, the first element in the queue need to be deleted first. And if you want to insert a new element into the queue, you need to add it at the end. Okay, so say I want to add 4. So 4 will be added after this 3, and then this rare position will be incremented to the next position. Okay, so this is what is called as a queue data structure. Queue data structure follows the principle first in, first out. Is the queue data structure clear to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So to do the insert operation, the name for the insert operation is NQ operation. For deletion, you call it as DQ'd. Okay, so DQ and NQ are the words for insert and delete. So here I am NQing something into the list, and the element that I have NQ'd means insertion. Okay, so I'm using the append method to insert an element into the queue. So append method will add the element to the end of the queue. Okay, so wherein the principle of insertion satisfies. Now to delete the element from the queue, I cannot simply use a pop, because pop will delete the element at the end if no arguments are mentioned. So according to the queue strategy, the first element need to be deleted. Okay, so that is the principle of the queue. So I am giving a 0 over here because the index of the list starts with 0, and the first element will be at the 0th index. So I want to delete the element at the 0th position. That is what is called as DQ operation. So I have done pop of 0 over here. So the NQ operation is taking place with the use of append method, and the delete operation is done by using the pop and passing the argument inside the pop operation. Okay, so let us take a look into the output. So first I have taken a queue, q1, 2, 3. I said q is equal to 1, 2, 3. I created a list over here with the 3 elements in it. The elements are 1, 2, and 3. In the next step of the program, I have printed the queue, wherein this is the outcome of this print statement. In the next step, I have enqueued 4 into the queue. It has added at the end of the list. So I have got 1, 2, 3, and 4 after printing the elements here. And after this particular print statement, I have done a pop operation, which is dequeuing the element from the queue. So the first element of the queue is deleted. What is the first element which is at index 0 is 1. So 1 is deleted. And this pop will return the element also. So that's why I have been able to print the element that is deleted here. So 1 is deleted. And after deletion, I'm just printing the queue. So the elements in the queue now are 2, 3, and 4, where 2 has come to the front of the queue. And 4 is the rear of the queue. And to know what is in the front of the queue and at the rear of the queue, to know the front of the queue, I simply said queue of 0. And to know the rear of the queue, I have used an expression here. I have taken the length of the list and then -1 will give me the last index number. So, and after calculating the last index number, I have given that as an argx value for queue. So, which will be the last index number and which will retrieve the last element in the queue. Okay, queue of the last index number will give me the last element in the queue. So 2 is in the front of the queue and 4 is at the end of the queue. So this is the program to implement a queue using list data structure. Is this program clear, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so this is regarding sort. Okay, so here I'm having numbers is equal to, I have taken certain numbers which are in random order. Okay, so they're not in, because I'm applying sort, I have taken the numbers in some random order. So here we are applying the sort operation. Okay, so nums dot sort. And after that, I'm printing the elements. So you can, okay, so this is the outcome of the print statement wherein the numbers are sorted in ascending order. So in the next step, what I did is I have taken this hide into this particular slice operation and I have given -1. So what will happen? The elements from the reverse order will be printed. Okay. And in the next case, I have used some argument inside the sort function. Okay, so reverse by default is false. If you're making it true, then what happens is you will be able to print the numbers in reverse order. Okay, we didn't mention anything over here because it's by default false. Okay, so when you make it true, what will happen is you'll get the elements in a decreasing order. So this is regarding sort, printing the elements in descending order. So let us now try to understand the difference between append and extend. Okay, so both the operations seem to be same. So this is an interview question. Okay, so give us the difference between append and extend is a very, very popular Python interview question. So let us try to understand this. So I have taken a list over here, which is L1 is equal to 1, 2, 3. L1 is equal to 1, 2, 3. And then I said L1 dot append, and then I'm saying 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so what happened? So this is the outcome of this append operation. Okay, so just try to look into the output of what happened after append operation. After append operation, I have printed the list, and this is the outcome of this particular print statement. What has happened over here is that, so I have given a list over here, a sublist over here, and this append operation is considering this to be one element of the list. Okay, so it is considering this entire sublist to be an element of the list. And what did it do over here? It has added this as a element into the list. Is this clear, ma'am?
Clear, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Now try to understand what extend does. Okay, so what extend does is I have tried to given the same kind of input. I have tried to give the same kind of argument into the extend method over here. So I have given 7, 8, and 9. But what it is doing here is it is taking 7, 8, 9 and iterating over 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so it is taking this as a list and it is iterating into the elements of this list and it is separating it. Okay, so it is keeping 7 as a separate element, 8 as a separate element, and 9 as a separate element. Okay, so this is the difference between append and extend. Okay, so but textually, orally, when we say that, we just say that append will add something to the end of the list. Extend also adds something to the end of the list. That's where in the ambiguity comes. Okay, so to make you understand what's the difference between append and extend, I have chosen this example. I hope this example is clear.
Clear, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this is another example. Okay, so wherein I have taken CNO. Okay, and I try to add it to the list. Okay, so it is taking CNO to be an element. Okay, so append has added CNO as an element. But when I have used the same CNO into an extend, what it is doing, it is separating this. It is iterating over this list, one element after the other. So it is making S to be one character, one element, and it is adding it to it. Okay. So in the next case, what I did is I have added 100 into the extend. Okay, so I have given 100 as an argument into the extend method. Now what it is giving, it is saying int objects are not iterable. So this is another difference between append and extend. You cannot give integer, floats, booleans into the extend. You only have to give the iterable objects like string or list or tuple or like that only you have to give. Okay, so you have to give values like extend 100 and extend 9.5 and all that. But you can give this 100 in an append method, but you cannot give it in the extend method. This is another difference between append and extend. Clear, ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now moving on to the next one, which is a very, very important concept, which is list comprehensions. And this is considered to be the advantage of list. If somebody in the interviews asks you for what is an advantage of list, give me an advantage of a list, you can say that list comprehensions are the greatest advantage that you get from the list. Okay, so this is one advantage. And so let us try to see what is meant by list comprehensions. It supports computed lists. Okay, so list comprehensions, Python supports computed lists, which is called as list comprehensions. Okay, so list comprehensions, what is the advantage? List comprehension itself is an advantage of a list. That's what I told you. So why it is an advantage is because it offers a shorter syntax when you want to create a new list based on the values of an existing list. Okay, so with the little syntax, with little with the less number of lines itself, you can actually achieve or you can create a new list. Okay, so that's what is called as list comprehensions, and this is the syntax of how you make a list comprehensions. So list is equal to some expressions. Okay, so computed list, that's what I told you, right? We are making a computed list and this should be in the square brackets itself. So I have to give it inside the square brackets. I have to give the expression and for variable in sequence. Okay, so I'll just give the for over there. So let us take an example and try to understand the difference between this. Okay, now to actually print the numbers from 1 to 5, which are squares of itself. So this is the code that we generally write. Okay, so I have taken an empty list over here and then I'm iterating from I. So I have taken a for loop here and I'm iterating from the range. Since I said I want the numbers from 1 to 5, I have given 1 to 6 over here. This is the beginning and this is the ending. And then I said list dot append and then I said 1 square and 2 square and all that. Initially I will be 1. So 1 square, I'm appending it to the empty list. So 1 square is 1, then 2 square is 4 and all that. Okay, so 3 square is 9, 4 square is 16 and 5 square is 25. So I got a list like this. Okay, so this is what we have done. Now to understand why list comprehensions is an advantage, just look into these 2 lines of code over here. Okay, so I can simply give this computed expressions. That's what we are talking about, right? Computed list. I can simply give this expression. Okay, so this of expression, I can give any expression over here, and then I can give the for loop over here. So this will work in the similar way how this program is working. Okay, so with shorter syntax, I'm able to achieve this particular operation over here in this particular concept by using list comprehensions. So I just said list 1 is equal to, I said I exponent 2 for I in range 1, 8. That's it. Okay. So now what will happen? I will iterate through the numbers from 1 to 5 and the operations are performed, and this computed value will be assigned to the list one after the other. So first 1 will be assigned, and then 4 will be assigned, and then 9 will be assigned. After I gets incremented and goes to the next element into the range, again the computation happens and the computed value is assigned, appended to the list 1. Okay, so this actually happens with shorter syntax and less number of lines. You can achieve this particular concept that I have written on the left side. You can apply this to anything. Okay, so but here I just showed you with an example. Is list comprehensions clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me show you something else. Okay, so so this is another example wherein you can use list comprehensions. So what we have done over here is we have combined over here. Okay, so we have combined two lists over here. So the two lists are, the first list is 1, 2, 3, and the second list is 3, 5, 6. And I also can have an if condition over here. Based on the if condition, the combinations happen. Okay, so this is like a nested for loop. Okay, so the outer loop is I and the inner loop is j. Okay, so for the outer loop, the initial value is 1. For 1, what happens is 3 times the inner loop will execute in combinations with 1 and 3. Is it clear? This is like an inner loop and an outer loop. For outer loop, when outer loop executes, I value becomes 1, right? So when I value becomes 1, the inner loop will execute. The inner loop will execute for its 3 elements. This is how the inner loop and the outer loop functions, right? This is how the nested loops function. Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so 3 times it works. And now what we are doing is, for the combination, what we are doing is, we are saying we want it to be in this combination. We want I comma j. We want the combination which is I comma j. You can also perform some expression. You can put some expression also there, I into j, or whatever you want you can put over here. I just have put I comma j. I just want the combination of the elements to be printed. I just have put I comma j. Whatever is there in the syntax, like there can be an expression. You can put any expression also there. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So now what happens? I want the combination to be printed, but there is a condition over here. What is the condition? I want the combination to be printed if I is not equal to j. Okay. So if it is equal to j, I don't want the combination. So what happened? 1 and 3 is printed, 1 and 5 is printed, 1 and 6 is printed, because 1 is not equal to 3, 1 is not equal to 5, and 1 is not equal to 6. So after the inner loop breaks, what happens? Now I becomes a 2. For the 2, again the combination keeps executing. 2, 3, 2, 5, and 2, 6, because 2 is not equal to 3, and 2 is not equal to 5, and 2 is not equal to 6. Now what happened? Inner loop is broke. Okay, so what happens is, now it comes to the outer loop. Okay, after the inner loop breaks, it comes to the outer loop, and in the outer loop, the next element of I is 3. Okay, so now what happens is, it makes a combination. Now 3 and 3, because 3 is equal to 3, that combination I don't get in the output. Okay, 3 comma 5 and 3 comma 6 I get. Okay, because it's not equal, I get. So that this is the outcome of the first print statement. Is the first print statement clear? And the output, did you understand what is the output?
Yes, ma'am.
Coming to the next print statement, in the next print statement, I gave a condition that it is I is equal to j. There is only one combination over here which is equal. So that is 3 comma 3. So it is printing 3 comma 3. Okay, so this is the outcome of the second print statement. Now coming to the third print statement, I said I is greater than j. All the elements in the outer loop are lesser than j. So I'll get a null set over here. I'll get a null list. And in the next case, I said I is less than j. Okay, so I is less than j. So I'll get all the combinations except 3 and 3 because it is not less, it is equal. Okay, and in the next case, I said less than or equal. So 3 and 3 combination also I get. Here the essence is that you can just see how I'm giving two loops inside this list comprehensions, and also how I can give an expression, and also how I can give an if condition in a single line. Okay, clear with list comprehensions?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is another example. So so I have taken a vector over here. I said VEC is equal to, I have taken -2, -4, -2, and 0 and 2 and 4, and I have printed. So what is the outcome of this print statement? The outcome of this print statement is just the list. It will just print the list. So now I have used the list comprehensions to make a expression. Okay, so x into 2, -4 into 2, -2 into 2, okay, 0 into 2. So this is what will happen. I want a list to be like that. So what has happened over here? So the expression is computed and I got this. Okay, so this is the outcome of this print statement. Okay, so in the next case, what I said x, for x in the list. Okay, so VEC, if x is greater than or equal to 0, all the negative things will go off. So what is there in the list? I have 0, 2, 4. So 0, 2, 4 will be printed over here. Okay, right. And in the next case, I said absolute. Okay, so absolute value of x will take off all the negative signs. Okay, so this is the outcome of this. I can also use functions. Okay, so I have also used functions. And in the next case, what I did is I have taken a list over here. Okay, so wherein it is having sublist. Okay, each and everything is considered over here. Say I have taken two for loops over here. Okay, so the outer for loop will take the sublist. Okay, so it will take now, what will happen? EM will have the first element. What is the first element? The first element is 1, 2, 3. It's a sublist. Okay, so it's a sublist 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so what is num over here? Num, you are iterating over this particular ELEM, which is a list in itself. So what it will do? It will iterate this from 0 index. Okay, so what it will do for the first element, it will give 1, 2, 3, and the inner loop is broken now. So it goes to the outer loop, and the outer loop will take to the next element. What is the next element? 4, 5, 6, which is a list in itself. So this is an example of the previous case. Okay, so wherein I'm just printing the elements of the list. So the inner loop will iterate over the second element of the VEC, wherein the second element is a list in itself. So 4, 5, 6 will be printed. And then the inner loop is broken. It goes to the outer loop, wherein it takes the third element, which is 7, 8, 9. And then the num, the inner loop will iterate over this 7, 8, 9, and 7, 8, 9 will be printed. So the inner loop is broken now and it goes to the outer loop. There are no elements, so the outer loop is also broken. So there are no elements after this, so the program exits. Is this clear, Ma?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Next, looping in the list. Okay. So this is the eighth point of the list concepts. So we already have seen, I just wanted to give you an example with taking the sum of the elements in the list and finding out the average of the list. Okay, right. So I have taken a list over here to show you that, see here, I am giving you 2 points over here. The first point is that list can have duplicate values. So see, I have 2 here, 2 here. To feed it in your brain only, I am showing you in my examples, I'm including the duplicate values. Else I could have taken 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. But if I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you might think that maybe list will not have duplicates. That's the reason to actually feed in your brain, because every day you look into the concepts, right? So to feed in your brain, I'm giving some duplicate values. That's the first thing. Second thing is the lists are ordered sets. What is meant by ordered set is, see here, the list elements are 1, 2, 8, 9, 2. Okay. So 1 is in the index 0, 2 is in index 1, and 8 is in index 2 and all that. When I try to print it, the order will not change. Okay. So the order will be like 1, 2, 8, 9, 2 only. It will not be 9, 8, 2, 1 or some random order you won't get. If you get some random order, it is an unordered set. So the list is an ordered set. Okay, so some points like we are keeping in mind. The first point is that list is a sequence. Elements in the list will be accessed through the index value. And the second point is lists are mutable or immutable.
Mutable, ma'am.
Lists are mutable. Lists are ordered or unordered.
Ordered, ma'am.
Ordered. Okay, so lists are ordered. Can you have duplicate elements inside the list? Yes, you can have duplicate elements inside the list. And list contains any type of data elements. Okay, so it can have combination of integers, floats, boolean, strings, anything that you can have in the list. Okay, right. So herein I just have taken a list, and then what I did, this is the logic. Okay, so I said sum is equal to 0. And I'm iterating through the first element of the list till the last by using a for loop over here. So I said for I in, the range is list itself. So I just gave the list L. So here I just have written my logic of sum is equal to sum plus L. Okay, so after this, what happens is, after this iteration of this for loop, sum will be having all the sum of the elements. Okay, so the sum of the elements will be there in the sum. Okay, now I am trying to print sum on the screen. Okay, and I have formatted my print statement in such a way that the output will be readable and it's understood. So I said sum of the elements is whatever I got, I am getting over here, which is 22. And in the next case, I'm printing the average of the elements. Okay, so I said the average of these elements is, and sum by total number of elements, right? So total number of elements I get by length. So I'm using this length over here. Okay, so here you can access the elements, okay, of the loop by using a for loop. You can access the list elements by using a for loop. So this is an example looping in list. Other ways of accessing elements of a list. Okay, so how can you access a list in the other ways other than the loops and all that? So Python uses various ways to access a list. The first one is by using enumerate function. Okay, so the first one is by using enumerate function. So let us look into this example. Okay, now I said I have taken a list which is L is equal to 1, 2, 3. And here I said I have given two variables. Generally we say for I is equal to for I in, right? But here I have given two looping variables. The first one is J and the second one is I. Let us try to understand what will be there in J and what will be there in I. So what is enumerate? Okay, so this enumerate is an object. Okay, so enumerate function returns an enumerate object. I hope you can see that over here. It returns an enumerate object. Okay, so when I give list into this enumerate function, this enumerate function will produce an enumerate object. What will this enumerate object look like? The enumerate object will look like this. Okay, so it will have index and then the value. So I have 0 and 1. Okay, so the combination. Okay, and then I'll have 1 and 2. Okay, so I'll have 1 and 2. This is how the enumerate object will look like. And then I'll have 2 and 3. Okay, so what is the first element in the enumerate object? The first element in the enumerate object is the index, and the second element item is nothing but a value. So the enumerate object will look like this, okay, which contains the index and value of all items of the list as a tuple. Okay, so it will be in terms of tuple like this. Okay, so enumerate object will like this. Okay, now what you're doing, you're trying to access this enumerate object. So because there is a tuple of index and value, you need two variables over here, and the first one is j and the second one is I. You can also have a comma b or c comma d or whatever. Now what will this j print? The j will print the first thing in the tuple. What is the first thing in the tuple? Which is index. So j will be printing the index. Okay, and what will I print? I print the value. So you can see I is at index j. I have written it in this manner. You can format it how you want in statement. I have written it this way. So what is the I is nothing but the value. So it will say 1 is at index 0, 2 is at index 1, and 3 is at index 2. So in this way, you can actually give list as an argument into enumerate function and then access it using the for loop. Wherein the advantage here is like you can also access the index value of the elements. Now the second way to access a list is using range function, which you already know. Okay, but to keep all the concepts together, I have given this here, the second way to access a list. So I in range, and here what I did, I have given the length L I have given, or else you can directly give, if you know the number of elements in the list, you can directly give the elements. Both will produce the same output, but here I have given a different way of formatting my output statement. Here I have given different way of formatting my output. I have given in two print statements. So in first print, I said like for I have given the indexes in the first for. You can also take the elements. In the next case, I have taken the elements as well as the index numbers I have printed. Okay, so this is another way to access the list by using the range function. Third way to access a list is using an iterator. Okay, so what is an iterator? Iterator is a built-in function which is nothing but iter. Okay, so you say, I hope everybody can see it on the screens. Can you see it on the screen? Something which I have rounded in over here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so what is iter? Iter is a built-in function which is an iterator. Okay, which is an iterator. The iterator is used to loop over elements of the list. The iterator fetches the value and then automatically points to next element in the list when it is used with the next function. So compulsorily you have to associate this iter with the next. These two are like twins. Okay, so you have to associate them. You have to use next with iterator. So this is my list. So what is there in the list? 183 is there in the list. Okay. In the next case, what I did, I have taken the iterator and I have passed list into this particular item. When I passed this into this item, what happened? The iter object is created. Here the object is created. And so you cannot directly access this particular iter without using next. Next you have to use. So this iter. So now what you're doing for I in range and you have given the range, you can directly give 3 also. Nothing wrong. And then I said element at index I is, and then you say next of IT. This IT is the reference variable of this particular iter. Okay, so this IT is the reference variable of this iter, which will keep on incrementing. Okay, so what you're doing next of, first it will be having 1, and then it will be having 8, and this is 3. This is an object. So what you're doing, first it will print 1. After that we are saying next of IT. Okay, so this is the reference variable. IT is the reference variable for this. So this is IT. Okay, so first it will print 1. And in the next case, what we are doing, next of IT. Okay, so it will go to the next element, print 8 for me. And in the next case, it goes to the next element, prints 3 for me. and there are no elements, so this stops. Okay, so this iter and next has to be in combination. Okay. What is the first way of various ways to access a list?
Enumerate.
First one is enumerator. What is the second way?
Range.
Range. What is the third one?
Using iterator.
Okay, using iterator. Yes. Okay, so that's the end of your list. What all we have seen in the list? So we have seen nested list, we have seen cloning of list, we have seen basic list operations, list methods we have seen, list comprehensions we have seen, and finally we have seen looping in list. And also after that we have seen various ways of accessing a list. Okay.
Tuple sets or dictionaries.
Dictionary and operations.
Yeah, the
Operator.
operations on tuples, sets, and dictionaries. Okay, so we are left out with this. So straightest data structure is tuple. Okay, it's the fastest data structure is because of its quality. What is the quality? That it is immutable. It's not like list. List can change. Okay, so you can change the values in the list. You can change a list. But here tuple you cannot change. It is immutable. Once the values are fixed, they are fixed. That's it. Okay, so you cannot make changes. That's the reason when I explained about lists, I said like you cannot use the append method on a tuple, because when you add something, it means that you made some changes to the tuple. Okay, right. So because of its static nature, tuples are considered to be the fastest accessed data structures. Okay, right. And so how do you create a tuple? So here the syntax for creating a tuple is that we'll be using parentheses. In the list, we have used the square brackets, but here we'll be using the parentheses. That's the only difference between the list and tuples in terms of syntax. Okay. And here the same thing, like you can have values. So I'm saying tup1 is equal to, I'm saying value 1, value 2, and so on. I can have n number of values over here, and these values can be of integers, floats, characters, strings, and booleans. Okay, right. So let us look into how to create tuples. So to create the tuples, I can simply say t is equal to, and I have given here different types of data into the tuple. So I have taken an integer, I have taken a float, I have taken a character, I have taken a string, and I have taken a boolean. And then I said print t. Okay, so when I said print t, this is the outcome of this particular tuple. Okay, right. And I just wanted to show you that tuples are immutable, meaning that you cannot change the object. So here the object is t. So this is what is the tuple which is created. And I have printed the tuple. Yes, the tuple is printed. Okay. And then what I'm saying is I want to change the value at index 2. So what is the value at index 2? So this is at 0, this is at 1, this is at 2. So at 2 position, there is a over here, and I want to change this a to 100. So what it is saying type error. Object does not support item assignment. So you cannot, this tuple does not support changing the values. Okay, so you got this error. This means that tuples are immutable. You cannot change it. Okay. So this is an empty tuple. So you can say t is equal to, and you can just, if you try to print it, it will give the syntax like this. Okay, so this is what is an empty tuple. Let us look into another very important point. Okay, so wherein I said t is equal to 7. Now what will happen is here it will just remove this parenthesis, and then it will assign t to 7 to t. Okay, 7 is assigned to t over here. When I try to print the type of t, I got that t is of class integer. Okay, wherein we might think that we have created a tuple. We need to get tuple, right? We need to get that it is of class tuple, but it is showing that it is of class integer. Okay, if you put a comma, then it will understand. This is an internal implementation. Okay, so if you put a comma, it will understand that you are trying to create a tuple, and now t will be of tuple type. Okay, so these kind of questions you will be getting in the placements and all that. Okay, so they'll just give you this and they'll say what is the type of t. Okay, so the type of T is generally when you see this parentheses, we might think that it is a tuple. So we might answer that it is a tuple. So I hope it is clear now. So this comma plays the major role over here. It's an internal implementation. Okay, so whenever it sees 7 in parentheses, it will just remove this parenthesis, give 7 to T and make T as an integer data type. Okay, variable. T is on T is of integer variable. Okay, so if you give a comma, it will consider it to be a tuple. Okay, right. Next one is utility of tuples. What does it mean by utility of tuples? Utility of tuples means where tuples are used. Okay, so the usage of tuples. Tuples are used in a built-in function, which is a div mod function, which returns a tuple. Okay, so the return type of this particular div mod is tuple. Now, why we are specifically trying to understand what div mod is? Now, div mod will give 2 values as the return. Okay, so div will return 2 values. Okay, so generally we see that a function will return 1 value, right? So this is what we have seen. But here div mod will return 2 values for me. Since it returns 2 values for me, we need a tuple to catch those 2 values. Okay, right. So here what we did is we have passed 2 arguments into div mod. You cannot pass more than 2 values into div mod because the number of arguments that div mod takes is only 2. Okay, because it can perform, it's a binary operation. Division is a binary operation. You just perform it on 2 operands. Okay, right. So you have to give only 2 operands over here. So I gave 10 comma 2 and now the quotient is 5 and the remainder is 0. Okay, so since this returns 2 values for me and the 2 values are nothing but the tuple values, Q and R are nothing but the tuple. Okay, so wherein I am printing Q and R. So div mod returns tuple. Okay, so this can be your MCQ. Okay, so what is the return of a div mod built-in function? What is the return of a div mod function, built-in function?
Tuple.
It's a tuple. It gives 2 values as output. Okay, so it return 2 values and which is nothing but a tuple. Okay, so in the next class, we'll look into how to access values of a tuple and all that. So I'm closing my class now. I hope today's class is clear. Is it clear, Ma?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, right.